Do you hear that? Do you see what's coming? The voting data from 2024 shows a clear shift in the state of California. The wave of Californians who decided to up and leave to move to Texas or Florida or Tennessee is over. The rest of us are here to stay, and we will no longer stand idle while the bad politicians in Sacramento continue to push bad policies that refuse to represent the American people of California. This isn't about left versus right, or Republican versus Democrat. This is about saying enough is enough. We have the highest rate of homelessness, the highest unemployment, the highest gas prices, the highest cost of groceries, the highest cost of living, the highest taxes, and what are we getting in return? The American people in California are sick and tired of not being represented. Because when we sit back and get taken advantage of for long enough, we the people will stand strong and united to make change. To the California voter who's tired of what's going on in our state, join us, reach out, see how you can get involved. There is a movement coming, a California movement.
You ever wonder what is the truth?
Three things cannot be long hidden: the sun, the moon, and the truth.
And the truth shall set you free!
All right, guys, here we are, another episode of Point Blank Truth Podcast. Thank you so much for tuning in. Sitting across from me today is Mr. Kenneth Prado. Kenneth, how are you doing, sir?
I'm doing good. Thanks for inviting me to come out.
Yeah, of course, man. Thank you for coming. I know we've been trying to figure out what's going on, fixing some things, so I appreciate your patience with us, man.
Oh, of course, man. My pleasure.
So talk to us a little bit about, Kenneth, who you are and what it is that you do.
Hello, everybody. My name is Kenneth Prado. I'm a governing board trustee for Hemet Unified School District. Just want to share a little bit about my past, to bring it up to speed, like why I do what I do nowadays. So I was born, my dad's from Mexico. So if you look at nowadays things, the whole immigrant thing, so my dad was a legal immigrant to America from Mexico. My mom's born in LA. But unfortunately, at the age of 5, due to unforeseen circumstances, I was removed out of the care of my mom. I was placed in foster care. I've lived in quite a few homes, group homes, growing up, until I settled with one family in Sacramento. So I lived in Sacramento, Folsom. They moved back east to Vermont, so I lived in Vermont for a couple years. Came back to Folsom, and during that time, as a young kid, the home I was in, the man of the house, Bill, his son had gotten out of prison, and so I was a young kid, and about 12 years old, and he built this punching bag in the garage. And so I was all amazed, as young boys, he was punching it, and his knuckles got all bloody, and I thought it was like the coolest thing, and so. I told my friend, and then it ended up he told his mom. His mom told my foster mom. She got upset, and one day she had it out with me, and so that was the last time that weekend I was in that home.
How old were you when that happened?
I was about 12, 13 years old. And so moved back to my grandma's. I was sent back to my natural grandmother, Grace Murray, in West Covina. And so she raised me from the age of 13 and up. So I learned a lot of things in her home because she was a veteran from the Marine Corps, which I know you like. And so so I learned a lot of things in her home. You know, everything had a place. You know, strict but not strict to the point of like disciplined strict. But it was just, you know, trying to teach me how to do things in life, learn how to take care of myself. You know, such as like dropping me off at the laundromat on the weekend by myself to teach me how to wash my own clothes, to sew. You know. So that was my upbringing, but still, you know, had no real parental or supervision over me. I visited my mom every once in a while. She lived in Azusa, California. Had a younger sister, and you know, you get to that age where you just start doing things and experimenting, you know, with just different life things as we all do as kids, you know, and so where she lived in Azusa was like the project, Section 8 housing. So everything around me was just nothing but gangbanging. Section 8, like I said, you know, back when, you know, all the single moms used to wait in front of the mailbox, you know, for the checks, you know, first through the 15th, you know, and they get it, they go out and party. And so that was just always around us, you know. I always tell people, like, in Azusa where we lived, we're actually behind an Acapulco by Citrus College. And so Friday nights, yeah, you know, the moms would get their checks and their money, and, you know, and they go to Acapulco, and my mom would always tell me, like, oh, see you later, like on a Friday night. And I see her, like, you know, Monday morning. Crazy. But we'd always hear the music, you know, you know, from the
like,
club.
Oh,
but
at least we know mom's still having a good time.
Yeah, then you hear the screams every once in a while, you know. But yeah, that just left us up to ourselves, you know, and you know, like a lot of those stories, you know, the veteranos or the OGs, you know, get out and they raised us, you know, because there was only men where we lived. So, you know, I still went to school. That was my thing, played sports. And then when I was 17, I enlisted into the Marine Corps, you know, because that's all I ever wanted to do as a kid. You know, since I lived with my grandma, you know, she took me to graduations to observe it. And so I studied real hard for my test. Scored kind of high, so I picked aviations.
Nice.
For the Marines, and unfortunately, 2 weeks before graduation, and 3 weeks before I was supposed to leave to boot camp, because I got sworn in at MEPS and everything, I was involved in a drive-by shooting at a gas station. We were all seniors hanging out at this gas station in Hacienda Heights, and a car drove by. And so back then, when I was a kid, the whole thing was wearing like long white tees.
Yeah.
You know, we used to pick them up when we walk on the sides, but I guess they thought I had something, because my friend was arguing with the passenger, and I walked up, and he just reached underneath his seat, pulled out a .22, just started dumping into the air. I turned, got hit on my side with one of the bullets, and ended up, the bullet went through my small and large intestines. My bladder hit my spine. It came out my left side. I was in the hospital for a month and a half. They said they had to bring me back twice, respiratory arrest. Had a colostomy bag for a year. I had to learn how to walk all over again. But that just led me to, for 18 years, just feeling lost in the world and just, you know, surviving. That's all it was just survival. Working odd jobs back and forth. And then, you know, came to San Jacinto in 2008, stopped drinking, gave my life to the Lord in 2000. Actually, be August 23rd of this month. It'd be 17 years.
Sobriety.
Sober, nothing.
Wow,
no
dude.
Cigarettes, no drinking, nothing.
That's awesome. Congratulations.
Oh, thank you.
Man. Yeah.
You know, gave my life to the Lord, and I enrolled at Mount San Jacinto College, and at the age of 35, and obtained 2 degrees from there, one in alcohol and drug studies, the other social behavioral sciences. Then I transferred over to University of Phoenix to obtain my bachelor's in criminal justice and administration. And then I worked in the field of substance abuse, drug courts, CPS, family preservation courts, drug diversion, all the different, you know, different treatment centers for 12 years. Got up the ranks to clinical supervisor. And then COVID happened, and that's what propelled me to be sitting in the seat across from you.
I see. I see. So what was it that made you decide to like become a school board member? Because that's like, dude, that's a lot. Like you had a real troubled youth. You came up as a young man, and then you were gonna go to the Marine Corps. Everything was looking right, and then one bad situation with your friends, and it changed your life forever. And then I'm sure that gap between from when you came out of the hospital and when you in 2008 when you decided to get sober and give your life to the Lord, I'm sure that was a huge struggle for you as well. I'm sure that there was a lot going on. But so I guess I'm interested to know, with all of that, did all that history have a lot to do with your desire to like be on a school board and see if you can have a positive impact? Like what was it that inspired you to do that?
I was thinking about that, like the culmination of everything I've experienced in life, leading up to, today being, happily married, to my wife. We're a blended family. We have 8 kids, seven daughters and 1 son.
It's a busy household, man.
But they're all adults except for 2.
Okay.
No, but I truly believe, I've been blessed or fortunate to have survived what I've been through.
Yeah.
And try to use what I've gone through to hopefully like help others. And like to answer your question is, if you look at every step of my life, whether it was as a young kid, a young boy, to an adolescent, teenager, fatherless home, where I lived, everything I've been through, there's always been some sort of authority figure. There's always politics involved in it, structure, and so no matter what area, there has always been something. There has always been someone you had to, they say, like report to or be accountable to, or else, right?
Yeah.
Structure. So that led to like Marines. I wanted structure. I've always enjoyed structure in my life, and so I look at that led to when running for school board. The first situation I ever encountered, I've been doing advocacy for like 10 years, but the first one I've ever went out to say something was at my actual school board I sit on now, is that they used to call parents in the middle of the day. You get the caller ID and you see it at your kid's school, and that at that moment when I answer this, it could change my life forever because something could have happened to my child.
Yeah.
And then you answer it, and it's a recording talking about they're notifying you for a pesticide spraying, this weekend. And it's like, this is ridiculous. Or a smoking cessation class. And so I approached the school board one time and told them about this. I told them I really didn't feel it was comfortable for parents to have to answer calls in the middle of the day. The stress that we go through.
Yeah.
And so that, and then
when you see the school call and you're like, oh God, what happened?
Yeah, what happened to my child?
Yeah, and then it's just a recorded line just informing you.
Yeah, so
you could do those calls anytime,
So they don't do them no more. I don't think, do you get them in the middle of the day anymore?
No,
See? It's hopefully it's a system. I'm saying I'm not the one that did it, but it was just, those are concerns where I approached my school board. I've always, went out and tried to advocate for people, whether it was working in substance abuse, trying to help people out, finding resources for them. And then COVID happened, and, like all of us, the whole 2 weeks to, slow the curve, but then see the progression of things and the dictatorship of do as I say, not as I do, and a lot of things that we've been through. Now, I've always told people, like, everything it should have been your choice, what you want to do. But when it got to a point of like having to choose whether your own livelihood or doing what they asked you to do, that was the last straw. And then we kept on like asking, certain groups I was involved with at that time, to like unmask our kids, and then we saw the governor at a Rams football game, playoffs, or something like, unmasked, but telling our kids, and our teachers, no, but you return Monday, but we can do this, getting caught in a restaurant, and all those things that we all know about. So that really pushed, because I put a rally together with some other individuals in front of our school district, and went there and told them, like, get a backbone, do something, tell the government that, we should unmask our children. to return. And so that, I believe, catapulted me, because then I sit there now and I sit on the dais, and look at that podium, as a concerned parent that I once stood behind, challenging my school board, and then just got a lot of support from individuals to run for school board. And so, yeah.
Nice. When did you get elected?
My term is from 2022 to 2026.
Okay.
So November of 2022.
Nice. Are you gonna? I know it's still early, but are you considering running again, or are you
considering?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of things we all do. We consider, we weigh the options. What's best, not just for ourselves, but for our family, the future. And that's one thing I know I've been blessed with is with our two youngest in school. I'm able to have an inside perspective of what goes on behind what public don't really see all the time. We only see the outside of what goes on with school districts and board meetings, but I'm able to see what happens behind closed doors and maybe have like a better understanding and better access to things.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's interesting, man. I also wanted to talk about the California movement a little bit.
Right.
I got a phone call a couple weeks ago and asked to sit down and speak with some people, and I got brought on to the California movement team, and I was really excited to see that you were part of it. I was like, of course, Kenneth's here, and I don't know. What are your thoughts on what it is their goal is and what California movement's trying to do?
I truly believe is being with Oscar when the thought of California movement. I know the objective and the mission is to bring awareness to Californians. We came, him and I, and other leaders of California movement or leaders of another organization, we're just trying to bring awareness, and as being Hispanic, it was to wake up the community, because like we all understand as being Hispanic, we're conservative in nature, of things that we believe in: God, family, hard work, protection, small business. And after that, just stay out of our business, but we see that how a certain political party will still sit there and try to, use people as pawns, based off the color of your skin. So we just try to enlighten people that you don't have to vote a certain way, because within Hispanics and Latino, families, there's two things that are guaranteed that you're going to be without you asking a question. One is Catholic and one is a Democrat. And so why? And so ever since I was a kid, I've always asked that question, like, why? And so like I've never once voted Democrat since I was 18 years old.
Really? Do you feel like you've always like done your own research and just tried to been informed, been like, oh, this guy is fits more my beliefs, and then it turns out, oh, he's not even a Democrat. Look at that. Imagine that.
Right? Yeah. That's why, people like do some research, don't get out of that box that, they try to place us in, or that we placed ourselves in. Step outside, ask questions like why this, and I think in high school, history and government and civics I love those subjects, and it had me dig deeper into what the meaning was and the foundation of our country. And if you look at everything they've tried to do to destroy our country, globalists or those that they call the deep state, there's this foundation that's unbreakable. And it reminds me of, like, even in the Bible where he says, as long as you have a strong foundation, that's what you need. Because no matter what happens, you can build up again as long as your foundation is strong and is built upon principles and morals that are righteous.
Right. It's interesting because since I've started the podcast and I got involved, I started getting involved in the school board, and then I did the Fox News interview, and then we did the podcast, and I've been pretty open and vocal about who I am and what I represent and what I stand for. And it's interesting it was the conservatives who kind of like welcomed me with open arms, but at the same time, like there were organizations who would let me in, but only to a certain point, right? Because I'm not a registered Republican. I'm a registered libertarian. I feel like the Libertarian Party kind of fits more my belief system, small government, leave us alone, let people live their life, do what they want. So it's been interesting to see with California movement and speaking with Oscar how he made it very clear is like he was like, Danny, you know, we know who you are and what you're about, dude, and do your thing. We're not into this groupthink mentality, you know, and that really drew me to the California movement. Was like, and I know they're still young and we're still growing, and there's a lot coming up that we're gonna be working on and dealing with. But I thought it was just awesome to finally see like a conservative movement that's like, hey, dude, you don't have to be a Republican to be with us. You know what I mean? Like, and that's the crazy thing is when you look at California, right? You look at the presidential race. There's so much red on that map. So much of California voted for Trump, and I think that the mindset that California movement has, where it's like, no, you don't have to be a Republican. You know what I mean? Like, we want to focus on real issues. Yeah. You know, issues before party line. You know, what are you gonna do for the people of California? California has a lot of issues. I mean, the homelessness is high. The cost of living is crazy. I think just recently I saw this poll that said California has the highest homelessness and the highest unemployment rate. Yeah, and like gas prices are crazy. Like, our state is literally coming up with ideas and ways to combat the American federal government. That's crazy to me.
They're stuck in a mindset, like, no matter what administration it is, but let's just focus on today's administration. No matter what they do, you have to be combative against it. You know, and listen to the words they use. It is fight.
Yeah. Stand
your ground. I was listening to one that was speaking at the recent thing for California with Newsom a couple days ago. Yeah. It was I believe he was from Texas or something. He was saying, yeah, we got to square up, and we all know like where we come from. When someone says square up, that's fight. You're getting physical. And so it's just amazing that why do you want to get physical with people if they have difference of opinion? Mm-hmm. And that's what's great about California movement. Like you're saying, it's no matter what your background is, no matter what, you know, society dictates, like your ethnicity or whatever box they want to place you in, that there's an objective, there's a mission statement, and it's just to bring awareness and collaborate with others, because we're good at separation and putting each other in different areas. You know, we don't work together, but that's what California is about. It is just bringing awareness to individuals, to Californians. Whether it's the blacks, Hispanics, whites, Asians, Polynesians, Samoan, no matter who it is, we all have some basic things that we all agree upon, mm-hmm. and let's stand on those and let's push back against the majority in California, because I know we're all tired of it. Like you're saying, look at the last election, majority of California was red. Of course, the blue is those major cities. Yeah,
they're just heavily populated
areas. And it wasn't that you had people saying, "Oh, I'm gonna vote. I'm gonna become a Republican now." That was the voice of the people, the power of the people voting, saying, "I'm tired of this, regardless of my political affiliation. We want better for our state." And then they turn around and, you know, thinking they had the Latino vote, and then they left them. It was the highest ever, you know, crossing over to political lines. And I told people that's one thing I've learned, like growing up, and it was a joke, but I was serious when it came to like Hispanics and Latinos. I said, we're like that little clear box that's in businesses on the wall that says break in case of an emergency. Mm-hmm. You know, this country has always battled between white and black. That has always been like the systemic, like, hatred or like smear on America, black and white. But then anybody else, you break that glass and, wow, we need them. Yeah. And so the last election cycle, you know, you've seen what happened with Hispanics and Latinos. They were like, no, we're tired of this. Like, you're forcing us to believe something that we don't want to. You're erasing our identity by saying Latinx.
Yeah, that's a,
you know, and that's not even
Latinx thing.
Like, so you're really like, that was a spit in my face. Like, that's like non-conforming to anything.
Right.
Like, no.
And it really you can tell that Latinx came from the white liberals of America. It's like you have no idea about you're not even considering the context of our language. Our language is gendered. depending on what you say, there's an O at the end
Exactly.
or an A at the end. Our language is gendered. You can't just all of a sudden, oh, well, we don't want to offend anybody, so Latinx.
There was
God.
nobody getting offended, you know? But yeah, so it's just, you know, being so involved in everything, you know, sometimes you say you go down those rabbit holes or, you know, looking at things, asking why, not being in that box. We're at a place right now. I knew this was going to happen. I said it back in 2016 during the, you know, Trump's first and Trump and Clinton when they were going for president. We're going to be the individuals or the ethnicity that's going to be the pawns in this chess game, because one's going to pander to them and one's going to lose us. And then when you lose us, look what they do to us. And right after the election, what happened? Look at all these riots about immigration, all these things. Now you're putting other, like, you know, Department of Homeland Security, ICE, you know, all these individuals that support our country and our borders and keep us safe. Now you're doxing them and putting them on notice, you know, on social media, you know, and then using us, letting us go and, you know, oh, look at Hispanics fighting for the rights and with the Mexico flag flying in America, you know, to then come in, want to be our saviors. Like, you're going to do something to save us now.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
It's just, I always tell people, you got to wake up, look, it's bigger than what you think.
Yeah.
You know, don't be quick to react to like current events. Look at the long game of what's going to happen. And sad to say is from what I do and everything that I'm involved in, we've already passed the point of no return as a country. We can't get back to things that you and I enjoyed, you know, as young boys and young men in our country, and things that once were here. But what we can do is continue to stand up and fight to protect our families, and to protect what's right in America, because it's still a great country, the greatest country in the world.
Yeah, I agree. Amen, brother. That's awesome. You know, it's just interesting to see this shift that's happening, is because the conservatives seem to be standing on common sense now, you know? And when you see people fighting against conservative movements, they don't say Republican anymore. They say, oh, you MAGA idiots, you MAGA guys, you know? And it's like, yeah, because the moderates, the middle people, and California is full of these people who are just in the middle. You know, it's expensive to live here, man. Most people they want to stay out of the way and make money, take care of their family. They don't want to get involved in politics. They don't want to have to pick sides and stuff like that. So California is full of a lot of like middle of the road people, and a lot of those people are agreeing with things that Trump are saying. So I believe in the California movement, and I'm looking forward for the growth in that, and to see how we can have an impact to improve California. Because at the end of the day, like you said, it's about our families and what type of life are we leaving behind for our kids, you know? So yeah, man, you know, I wanted to talk to you a little bit about, I know you said that you gave your life to Christ. What was it like for you, dude? Like leading up to that? Like, did you have moments where you can like feel God's presence and like it really felt like it was real for you, you know? Like, what was that like?
Well, I don't share this a lot, you know, it just, but I will, because maybe it'll touch somebody out there, you know. From growing up in San Gabriel Valley in LA County, you know, where I said I grew up, bright lights, big city, you know, everything you want 24/7, you know, and then moving out to the San Jacinto Hemet area, it was a culture shock for me. But I remember I was 35 years old. Like, nothing can go right in my life. Like, you try and this falls apart. You know, this job you think is good, then they lay you off, and then all these different, you know, nothing was everlasting. Where they say, like, I couldn't find no joy in life. And I remember I was 35 years old and I was flipping burgers at McDonald's in Moreno Valley. And so out there, the 60 freeway, you exit on Gilman Springs Road to go to San Jacinto Hemet. And I was driving an 89 Cutlass, and I was just thinking about everything. And my youngest daughter was about to be born. And I just pulled over to the side of the road, and I lost it. Like, probably one of the biggest moments in my life, you know, crying and just everything that I just held in since I was like 5 years old, everything I've been through, everything that I've experienced in my life. I just cried out to God. I said, I'm tired. I can't do this no more. And You know, I know a lot of people say, well, God's not real. Well, he's real in my life. He's brought me from the pits of hell, whether it was my own doing or just situational stuff, and brought me to where I am nowadays, you know, and I'm not perfect. None of us are perfect, you know, and I fall short on a lot of areas, but I try my best to find those areas of my life, to improve and hopefully not do again. You know, and ask for forgiveness where I go wrong.
Yeah. You know, I never really talk about the religious stuff on here, you know, and it's just crazy because, you know, man, for the past year, like when I got involved with the school board, like it sounds crazy and I don't want to get too much into my thing either, but I can feel like the presence of God, dude, like pushing me and tapping on my shoulder. And, you know, a couple months back, dude, we started going to church, and it completely evolved my life. I called a friend, and he doesn't believe in anything. We were in Afghanistan together, and he's a really good friend of mine. He lives in Riverside. And I was just telling him like everything that I'm experiencing, like it just got really hard for me, dude. You know, like times are tough. There's no rule book for this. I have 4 kids and a wife and a house, a mortgage, car payment. It's like the flesh can only handle so much, dude, you know? And like when I started going to church and when I started reading the Bible and praying, it's like that faith gave me a jolt of energy, you know, and like it just feels so real, you know. It's like I knew God existed. I never denied that God wasn't real, but I always felt like he's not really. I always felt like I stepped away from religion, you know. He's been right here the whole time, dude, you know, and it's crazy to me, you know. It's it's so new that it still makes me emotional, you know, because you know, like, why wouldn't I bring my family to God, to learn about Jesus, to learn about the Christian faith? Why wouldn't I do that? You look at the principles and the values, like the 10 Commandments alone, honor thy mother and father. You know, it's like, why wouldn't you do that? I feel like I was telling my buddy, if you don't believe in something, then you believe in nothing.
Yeah. And
then you leave it up to chance and luck and everything sucks and you're miserable. Why would you live like that? Why? So I don't know, man. I never talk about this stuff on here, but you know, you talked about how you were saved and it happened when you were 35. I'm 35. You know what I mean? So it's crazy to me. It's crazy to me.
They were like, 35 years old. Like, is that where something just happens within men? You know, we're not young no more. We're at the point of like, man, I'm about to be old. Like at 35, you're thinking like, wow, almost 40. Like to guys are like, oh my goodness, like I'm gonna be a grandpa. But I remember when I first got saved, the pastor had said one thing, and it really stuck to me. He said, when people always question him, like, why do you serve God? Like, oh, he's not real and all this stuff, right? Like, oh, you know, just because you're at your lowest, you turn to something. And he said, I'd rather serve a God and find out there isn't one than to do what I want and find out there really is.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And so that really stuck onto me because I think we're, as men, we go through a lot of things. Like you were saying, like, you know, all this stuff's going on, you know. I like analogies and always think like, you know, growing up, we're like a piece of sandpaper, you know, and we're always running around, you know, this room, and it has 4 corners, you know, and every once in a while when we get tired or something's going on, we're able to like take a time out, relax, chill in the corner, right? Right? But the enemy is always chasing us. And eventually with that sandpaper, we just sand down that room. Eventually it becomes a circle. Mm-hmm. And there's no more corners to hide. And I think that is when we're touched, you know, and that's where he's able to like catch our attention.
Yeah.
You know, it's not that we're weak individuals and we can't try to figure stuff out, but we're just tired and we need help, you know, as men. And there's nothing wrong, you know, in asking for help, you know, in doing things.
Yeah. Yeah. It was crazy, man. Like, you see how my TV's down there and stuff. I had a leak. We had a leak, and I had this plumber come out, and we've been going to church, and I've been praying, and I've been reading the Bible, but I've been in my mind like saying like, I want to learn the scripture. Like, I don't really know this, like, here goes the blueprint to like be a good man and a good person, live like Jesus Christ, and help my children walk in the same way. And this plumber came, and he saw a cigar cutter I had, and he's like, "You smoke cigars?" And I was like, yeah, sometimes. He's like, "We do a cigar and Bible study, man, if you want to come." Just random. It's the plumber. Who says that?
The plumber.
Yeah, you know what I mean? It's like, who offers that? And yeah, man, I just, it got real hectic for our family over the past couple of years with all the political stuff and being involved in the podcast. And, everybody was saying our school board was a spiritual war. And like, I felt it. I like, when you went to Temecula school board when everything was crazy, dude, that did not feel good being there.
Oh, you feel it. Yeah.
Yeah. It was like, ooh, these people.
You don't know
here,
what it is, but
yeah,
there's something going on. Yeah.
There's something there, and, so, ever since I started taking the family to church and really trying to live. And it's funny, is like going to that Bible study that I went to, like they're talking about scripture and they're breaking it down, and it's like, dude, all of this is like everything. It's like everything I learned in the Marine Corps. It's really like, just be a good person, treat others how you want to be treated, have a standard, set the example. Don't just talk about it, be about it, and it's like, God, I have so much more to go, as a Christian, but yeah, dude, it just really impacted me when you were like, I was 35 and then I gave my life to God, and it was like, damn, So I wanted to. No, wow. I normally don't talk about that stuff on here, right. But I feel like it was a perfect moment, Yeah,
of course.
What I want to switch to with you a little bit about is I want to talk to you about fatherhood.
All right.
Right. So speaking about religion, a lot of my motivation to turn to Christ and Christianity was because I have children. And for me, I want to give them a good foundation to work off of. I want to be an example for them. I want them to succeed and be great in life, and that's really my purpose in life at this point, is to raise my kids and make the best version of a human that can exist, right? Like, I don't know. Talk to me a little bit about that, dude. As a dad, I mean, you have kids who are adults. You know what I mean? So, and I also have a blended family. So I know that's a unique factor. I don't know. Talk to me a little bit about being a dad and what you have found the goal of a dad should be.
No, it's a big question.
Yeah.
It took me a while. Still lost on some things. Not having something to turn to as a resource, as being a dad, but I really think my role as a dad is to protect my children, provide them with the information, age appropriate, of course. Like, can't be talking about all this, they're like 6, they're like, what? I just want to go outside and play, like, just share things with them, talk to your kids. Let them know that you love them. It's not that hard to say I love you to your kids. Tell them good night. Pray over them. When they don't know. Just to always be there. Sometimes come down to their level and just talk and just be a funny dude in the house. Everybody says, "Oh, dad jokes." And so I just think that's the role of a dad. A father is to protect your children. That's part of you, of who you are as an individual. And of course, they're going to get to an age where they make their own decisions. But hopefully, I would have an impact that when they come to those decisions, they would make good choices in life. And I think that's what I've learned, is that's all we can do as dads. Is to get them suited and booted for adulthood, or even as teenagers, young kids, when they experience things, especially like what's going on now within schools and stuff like that, that they know the difference between right and wrong. and have good morals and ethics.
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting. You know what I have found a very unique perspective is, my oldest daughter, she's not my biological daughter, but I've been here since she was, I met her mom when she was 4, and I met her when she was 5. And her biological dad isn't really involved. And I look at, it's crazy, is like my connection with her is different than my biological children. Like my biological children, it's my flesh and blood, like they know me, you know? I found that being a stepdad was much more difficult because we had to learn each other, right? She had to learn me and I had to learn her. And I don't know, did you notice that at all? I know you said you have a blended family. Did you notice that it was difficult? It was more difficult with the step kids than it is with your biological kids, as far as like just being able to like understand them and see each other. Like my biological kids, I feel like they can read me, you know? They see me and they know, oh, dad's not happy, you know? Where her and I didn't have that biological connection early on, you know? And I mean, she's a teenager now, so I've been here for a long time. It's obviously much different. But in the beginning, I think back when she was 4, and then my youngest daughter, when she was 4, it was like I had to learn this person, and this person was like, they just came already molded to me. I don't know. What are your thoughts on that?
Already prefabricated for you, huh? Yeah, it's true. Blended, but a majority of the kids, I would say 6 of them were already adults, you know, when we had gotten married. So since I believe it was 5th grade. Yeah, it was 5th grade. He's a junior now. But just trying to just have like normal conversation. I think I try to find like similarities in my situation with him, which is like sports. We could talk sports all day long. You know, I try to reach out to him because he lives actually with his dad. You know, just normal conversations, text messages. You know, so there's a little bit difference, I guess, than yours. You know, but just be there. You know, when he's around. But I do get the point of like you gotta like be on your P's and Q's with your stepchildren. Yeah. You know, or around them, act better, I guess, than you would with your own kids, because they're like you can't go nowhere. Like, right?
Exactly. It always felt like there's this line that I won't cross, you know, because, you know, I'm your stepdad, you know, like there's a limit that I can take it to. Where with my children, it's like, you know, like I'm the disciplinary, you know what I mean? Like, no. These are my rules, you know, where with my stepchild, it was like, we got to learn this, you know. I would hand off a lot of things to my wife because it's like, you know, like I don't feel like this is...
That's your kid.
Yeah, you know. And it's so funny. It's like, just for, you know, like, and I'm talking about when she was like 6, 7, you know, I was in her life for like a year or 2, you know, and it's like, now she's, you know, she's had me as her dad for more than half her life, you know. So I think our relationship is much, I mean, it's improved through the years. It's grown, you know, but... Yeah, and every kid is different, right? You know, one thing that I noticed is, as a dad, every child gets a better version of me because I'm better prepared now. You know what I mean? It's like with my oldest, I came into her life and I was a Marine still. I didn't know anything but how to lead Marines. You know, it's like she got a very strict, tougher version of me than I am now, where with my 2-year-old, you know what I mean? He makes a mistake, or he makes a mess, or he throws something and hits me in the head, and it's like, all right, dude, you're 2. You know what I mean? Where when I was like inexperienced as a dad, my oldest son, maybe I'd be like, don't do that, and it's like, right, he's 3, dude, or he's 2. You know what I mean? It's so every time you have a kid, I feel like you grow as a parent, and every kid kind of gets a better version of me. Yeah. You know?
I think so, yeah. You know, you learn from, I guess, you know, just experience. You know, like even my daughter, just always, you know, raising her since she was 4. You know, single dad at that time, you know, raising her. It just, you know, the older we grew together, you know. So that's You know, I understand. I'm just thinking back. You got me thinking like the whole like red light, green light. No, stop, don't. Like we always use those terms, right? Like just my upbringing too was always like that. That everything had a place. Everything you put it away. You use it. You put it. Now I'm, just her bed's not made. I could care less if her bed. There's a dirty cup in the room. I don't care. It kind of thing. Like I'll tell her like you got to put it away, but it's like not something to harp on. Like with kids, like that's not the end of the world. When before maybe we were younger, we thought, just to teach them. I mean, we've already taught them that. Yeah. We can get on you if I have to ask you more than once to do something, of course. But I've tried to understand. I think even being in politics and school board is these kids have a lot of issues more than we had growing up that they deal with on a day in and day out basis. And a lot of things I've come to learn that they deal with are adult problems and they're young kids because us adults are fighting over issues or wanting people to believe what we believe. And these kids are just like stuck in the middle because when it comes to different genders, like our kids in school, that's nothing new to them. They're used to it. Yeah. It's us as adults.
Yeah, it's us. It's like, oh, this isn't how I was raised.
No, right? There was only like one restroom per you're a boy, you were a girl. That was it. And I share with people like just growing up too. Like I had friends, that had dads, and I would go hang out their house, but they had different like sexualities growing up. But everybody knew like their place, I guess. Like I never made fun of them. If they were gay or anything, and they never like try to pick up on me or like throw advances at me. Like it was, we just grew up as kids like that. Like it was no big deal. So I can understand these kids nowadays. Like it's normal to them. I think where it changed, for us, like I was saying, like these kids deal with adult issues because it feels sometimes it's just being force fed that we have to accept something. And if not, then we're just called harsh words.
Yeah. And what's interesting is something that I experienced just recently, like in the last year, where when we have these discussions of what's age appropriate, what's not, it's like there is a big difference between a 14-year-old and an 8-year-old, and it's like there is some leeway that I have for my 14-year-old. I think there are some things that I'm very comfortable or I feel is important for her to be exposed to in the world that I don't feel about my 8-year-old, and I kind of been talking about this a lot because it's like now that I have a kid in high school, like it's like, oh, I kind of understand the issue. Part of the issue here is we're not having the conversation in the same context. You know what I mean? Like exposure that my 14-year-old gets compared to exposure that my 8-year-old gets, those are two different conversations, And a lot of times when you have a parent who's like, in my experience, who's like, oh, I have a child who's non-binary and they need to be, it's like their kid's like 16, 17, Like I feel like, yeah, I mean, in that case, like, sure, your kid's going to be an adult here in like a year or two, Like if that's how they want to live, that's their prerogative, But then when we're talking about elementary school, it's like, that's a different conversation. Yeah. And I almost feel like that needs to be discussed more, is the context of the age groups that we're talking about. There are things that I think are appropriate for maybe the high school age, where it's like, no, that's ridiculous for elementary. And we're having these two different arguments, but we're blanketing our position on it. Do you get what I'm saying?
No, I understand what you're saying. Yeah. Like what's age appropriate for different age ranges?
Yeah.
And it brings up even in Hemet, because I think a lot of discussion in the past couple of years was what they like to deem as book banning. You're removing certain books from school. You're banning books, so I was contemplating, because if you look at my board, we're a 7 board. I think of myself more outspoken. I try to share information with people. It's all going to tie back to dads, right? How do I present something to update with something within school boards? Everybody in California has same board policy, same numbers, and it's called Library Media Center, right? Books that can be checked out, how do books get reviewed, such and such, etc. And so there was a book that was found that a teacher I brought in at one of our schools. And so I was like, here's a perfect opportunity to try to bring something forth to improve, our policy. And so I was able to request a subcommittee. And that was one of the questions is, what's age appropriate? Because every family is different. What one family deems, oh, heck no, not till they're 18 and they're out of my house. One was like, right. Oh, yeah, 14. I'm good with it, So we debated that, and one of the things that was discussed that they had said, well, according to me, they're saying, well, if you're saying that any books that have this certain kind of material in it, then of course this always comes out. They're going through a list, and it said it would be even the Bible would be included. That we would have to ban the Bible from schools in the library. And I said, why? And so I like to play coy, answer my questions. Okay, well, why? But why? Oh, because there's certain stories. Which ones? Well, it talks about drunkenness. Okay, which part of the story? I go, I've read the Bible. Let me know. Tell me what stories you're talking about and where they are. What was the context to the story? What was the reason the story was being told? And I said, you know what? You're right. There's stories of people being drunk. There's orgies going on. Homosexuality is in the Bible. They discuss all that. I agree with you. So the difference is some of these books that are being found, yes, they talk about those subjects, but the difference is they go into detail of the sexual act that is being performed and how it's being performed and how it's being done between a father and a daughter. Or a mother and a son.
Yeah, that's wild.
And I said, so that's the point. And some of the rebuttal was, well, it comes from protected classes or a majority of these authors. And so that could be a form of discrimination. And I remember, I'm not laughing that it's funny, but I said, I don't care. Bisexual, homosexual, trisexual, pansexual, heterosexual, smut is smut. And it shouldn't be in our schools if kids have access to it.
Yeah.
Come on, let's just be real. There's certain books, they just go extreme, into certain things. So that I was, we updated our board policy, and within ours, actually Karen England from Take Back the Classroom, if you know who that is, where they review books, you can go online and look at certain books. Mm-hmm. Actually, that is now in our board policy in Hemet Unified. That new books that come in or other books that are questions would be ran through that website to see if they've been flagged.
I see. Yeah, and that whole conversation, the book banning thing, that always triggered me. When they would talk about that out here, I'd like, first of all, if it is a book ban, that would mean that it's banned completely. If you want your child to have that book, you can buy the book and the child can bring it to school and read it on his own, right? Mm-hmm. So by definition, we're not banning anything. What we're doing is we're moderating content for age appropriateness. When we're talking about this stuff, right? And like, again, that's just it. It's like we need to be able to respect all belief systems, all family households. I think the big problem that we're having, especially in California, is the legislators, the school districts. There's policy that has been passed, and we're slowly creeping into this realm where we no longer view the parents as the core decision makers for their children.
Exactly.
And if we did view it that way and we respected that right, like, dude, if someone runs their household and they have 6 LGBTQIA children, like, who am I to tell them what to do with their house? That's my personal view. Is like, if that's how you want to live, fine. That's not how I do it. And I expect the public school system that my tax dollars go towards, that my children attend, to meet my standard of expectation for my children. So if we're having just this free-for-all access, then it needs to be as conservative as the most conservative household in that community. And that's just what it is. That's the reality of it, right? Like it's they act like public access to this content is something that is necessary. Like, no. It's not necessary. the school's job is to educate math, science, history, you know, inspire my child to be a scientist, an astronaut, a doctor, an attorney, right? Like, you don't have to you don't have to have these cultural discussions. These are conversations that should be had at home. And that's the thing that's getting lost in translation here, I feel like. And again, I think it really comes from this idea that parents aren't really in charge of their children, which
No.
which is a wrong way to look at it. And a lot of people in California see it that way.
Everybody from all sides, no matter if you even have a side, if you just have your normal everyday, you know, Sunday through Saturday thing as a parent, they don't know how extreme things are, that parental rights are slowly being removed. And it's amazing that a lot of people are not aware, or more people are not aware of what's going on. You know, and I think that's one of the biggest things why I started running, you know, for school board is, if you look at my Instagram handle, it's Prado for Parents of HUSD. Because parents are screaming at the top of their lungs, like, I should have right to access anything about my child. That's my kid.
Right. You
know, like, why are you telling me that I have to get permission to sit in the classroom with my child if they're misbehaving? Why is my child in the office because they got in trouble and I'm not informed about it? You know, why is my child reading certain subjects at a young age where I didn't give you permission? Like sex education, like parents have to opt out. No, parents should have to opt in.
Right.
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
Like, not sit there. And if they don't, then their kids are exposed to certain things. Maybe parents don't want their kids. And that all bases down to like even religion and faith. Like, everybody thinks there's all these Christian nationalists, you know, like, it's not that. Like, it's not a whole Christian nationalist thing. I mean, look at the Supreme Court ruling, you know, and it came from Muslims, Jewish, and Christian parents were now, even in California. So if you're listening to this and you're a parent in California, there is a form you can request to not have your kid be exposed, and you need to opt in for certain books to be read to them from TK through 5 now. Mm-hmm. You know, a lot of parents are not aware of that.
Yeah.
And for dads out there, like, just growing up, I've seen so many like men from different kinds of backgrounds, different belief systems, you know, and I've even spoken to them. Like, if this was to happen to your child, what would you do? Oh, I would nut up. Like, oh, heck no. What's going on?
Yeah.
And it's in the public school system. And that's the thing, is you have radical ideologies that like are being forced upon us, and people are pushing back, and we don't like it. And if more dads would just be vocal, I'm not saying to scream and go in and want to fight people or curse people or threaten people. Just go in with a loving heart and talk to people like you would your own kids. You know, stand up for your kids, stand up for your family, stand up for your neighbors' kids if you want. You know, and I guarantee a lot of these things would not be going on in California, and people feeling threatened that they have to decide if they have to leave California. You know, it's like every aspect of us as dads and as parents is being attacked. You know, and we could go on for hours, you know, on things, you know, especially within the school system and why I ran. You know, a lot of teachers, admin, they're good people. It's just that small percentage that are very loud. Mm-hmm. And if you don't go along with the get along, they will do everything they can within their power to destroy you as an individual, your family, and put you on notice that your safety is at risk.
Yeah. Yeah, no, and I think that it's so crazy is I'm having this like epiphany moment here, is like, because I feel like parents, but specifically dads, like the men, like, where are you guys at?
Where are you at?
You know, it's like, but again, you and I choose to step up and speak out, and we're not afraid to put ourselves out there. But you and I also share this core belief of it's our duty to protect our children. So maybe that's a question that dads need to ask themselves is what is outside of like the American image of the dad and the social construct of what a dad, what is it in your soul that you believe your job is as the leader of those children, as the primary role model, the man in the household, the person they see every day? You know, like, are you just checking out and scrolling on your phone, watching TV, doing nothing? or are you engaged with your kids? These are things that I think about when I show up to meetings or events, and it's like, there aren't a lot of people here. It's like,
Or they're all moms.
yeah, or they're all moms, right? Yeah, it's like, where are the dads?
That's I think is $1 million question.
Wow.
You know, and I've challenged. You know, I was with a brother a couple of years ago. We did it was an Instagram thing, but it was called Fathers of Fortitude. You know, and trying to collaborate with different dads. You know, standing up. Any culture, any country in this world, pick one and tell me what the role is of a dad in that household. There's no difference. It's just a different location on the map.
Yeah.
But, you know, and people will sit there and say, oh, male chauvinistic pig, or you. It's not about that. It's just we were created a certain way that it's protection. There's something in us, you know, just like mama bears protect their kids. You know, dad's doing it a different way. Dad, you know, when a group of men show up, guaranteed, when a group of men show up to oppose something, it changes the environment of people making those decisions of what they vote upon.
And it also changes the environment of the other people in the room and how they act.
Because it's just so crazy. Imagine just a bunch of dads just showing up one time in California to oppose something that will harm their children, and see how these people pee their pants. Mm-hmm. They will.
Yeah.
Or they make all these excuses, you know, of things. And I challenge dads, you know, to be more involved in your life. I learned at a young age, like, going to work is vacation, right? Because what does work do? Work takes you out of your home. It takes you away from your wife and from your kids. You get to go hang out with your friends at work, right? All the dudes in the job that you work at, you know.
Yeah.
It's a whole different environment, but you're away from your family.
Yeah.
So I've
totally.
kind of like tried to teach myself, like, that's vacation.
Yeah.
Because all your responsibilities are not there. It's just work. It's something you have to do.
Right.
Your real work happens when you show up at home. Mm-hmm. You know, at least it should be. Yeah. You know, your kids, your wife, whatever's going on, they need your time. So guys, dads out there, you know, going home because you worked a long day at work doesn't mean you get to take off your boots and just check out.
Right.
No, that's your job.
Yeah.
You know, and don't be surprised when you find out things happen.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the more you're involved with your kid's life, watch how more beneficial that could be in their lives.
Yeah.
You know, statistics speak for themselves. You know, when it comes to like suicide rates, you know, fatherless homes. And no one's saying like you have to live in the home, but be involved in your kid's life. Like if there's a separation, be involved in their life. Teen pregnancy, majority of girls, you know, fatherless homes. Yeah. Juvenile delinquency, men in prison. Like, look, the stats can go on and on and on. Yeah. How important the role is of a dad in their kids' lives. Yeah. You know, and we're not going to get it overnight. Just something to work on. Our kids are very forgiving.
You know, Kenneth, I completely resonate with everything that you're saying, and like, I launched the Watchdog program at her middle school before she left, and they're gonna have their launch party this month, and I'm still kind of helping them out, you know, and you know, the Watchdog program talks about that in their pamphlet that they send. They talk about the statistics of fathers not being involved, and that's kind of the goal of that program. And like, it's true, and this isn't an attack on women or moms. You know, no. Single moms do what they can, but we do live in a culture where a lot of dads have checked out in every sense of the word, and we can look around and see how that's impacted our society and our culture and our children. You know, and I don't know. I take pride with my kids. You know, I love being involved in their life and their world. I don't care how stressful it is. Like just the other day, I had to leave the job site early, and then I had to have my wife bring my oldest daughter to my job, and then we had to drive to Lake Elsinore for a football game, and then they're like, can someone do the stats? I'm like, sure, I'll do the stats, and then they're like, can you do it for varsity too? So we stayed for the varsity game, and it's like, you know, all of that was a lot. I was exhausted at the end of the day, but I wouldn't have preferred to be in a better place. You know, my kids are very engaged in sports and stuff, and my wife are being pulled apart at both ends. You know, we constantly have to split duties, but that's what it is. You know, I take pride in being an involved dad, and I think that it shows in the relationship that I have with my kids. You know what I mean? Like, nobody's perfect and nothing is perfect, but I really do value just being there for my kids, just being an involved and engaged dad. These young people, they're adults in little bodies, man. Everything they go through and experience, they're going to remember. I remember things when I was 4, 5, 6. You know, it's like, so what kind of mark do you want to leave behind in that human? What kind of influence do you want to be? Do you want to be the type of influence where they're like, I want to do things completely different than my dad? Or do you want to do things where like, I love my dad. I leaned on my dad. My dad was there for me. And I think that that's the goal. And again, I talked about it, like it's what I learned in the Marine Corps. Lead by example. You have to set the path and the tone. A lot of people talk about it and very few people actually execute on it, you know? And that's really what it is it's not about how you feel and what you think and what you say. It's what you do. It's how you're showing up. And I think that, you know, I'm hopeful that the tides will turn, that we will see more dads step up and get involved, but who knows? At the end of the day, all I can do is worry about the ripple that I can make and the ripple that I can have. All I can do is make sure that I'm showing up for my kids, that I'm going to the school board and giving public comment, that I'm engaged in city council and what's going on, and I'm showing up to protest things that I don't agree with, or I'm meeting with other community members who maybe have a different idea because I want to hear their side too. I want to hear their perspective. I want context. I want to know this world that my children are growing up in, because if I don't know the world, then how can I prepare them for it? You know?
Exactly.
So I don't know, man. We'll close it out, but I'm curious to hear, what do you have to say to maybe the dad who's listening that does want to go to the school board, that does want to step up, but just doesn't know where to start, you know? Like, 'cause I think that that's part of the problem is a lot of dads, they don't want to get political, so they don't know how to go about it and what to do. What would be your words of encouragement for those dads who are ready to step up, but they just need that last little nudge?
I would say one of the things, excuse me, one of the things they told me, like when I got on the board, right? I was just a dad that ran when you're a board member, always remember you wear the board member hat. So the decisions you make is as a board member, and the influence is going to have on people. And so I was sharing with someone the other day that same thing that I was told, and I said, it's true, but that board member hat is life that we've experienced. And so when you make those decisions, it's morals and ethics and things that you believe in, that you find are true and pure in your life. And so for the dads out there, the easiest way to get involved, maybe just go to a school board meeting and just listen. You know, agendas are released in your kids' school district, minimum of 72 hours on their website. Look at it. Look at certain things maybe of interest to you. You don't have to speak, but just attend. Watch how things go on. And when you speak, just speak from your heart. Speak something that you would stand up you personally or some want information on that you don't quite understand. Search social media. I mean, we all use social media right now. Go to California Movement, see how they do it. And it's okay to like be nervous. It's okay to like not understand what goes on. We all don't. It's a learning process. But the first step is to take that leap of faith and just go. Usually on Tuesday nights, once a month and for a couple hours, and see what's going on. Speak to people, ask them what's going on, and stuff like that. So just be brave, pray on it, go hopefully start meeting people that have same ideas and values. I think in our area, in the Inland Empire, we can probably most likely pinpoint people's belief systems and things they stand on, regardless of political backgrounds. Mm-hmm. You can always see that in a meeting. Yeah. Just based on who's in a meeting sitting there. And so just be brave. Reach out to me. Send me a message, on Instagram as a dad to Prado for Parents of HUSD. And then we can just link up, reach out to you. So come on, dads. That's what I've always asked. Yeah. This has come from a guy that never had a dad. And it's just, I've just learned how to be a father through life experiences and what not to do. in life. And hopefully, like you said, when our time was up, or our kids will have something good to say about us. That my dad, I remember my dad sitting in that lawn chair and when I was at practice for hours at a time, or my dad making stupid dad jokes. It's just crazy things. I think those things as dads, that's what we want, the good times.
Yeah.
Of course, disciplinary things we're gonna have to do. But majority, probably 99% of us as men, we're just a bunch of jokesters, want to have fun with our kids. Because we're kids at heart.
Yeah, totally. All right. We'll close out on that, man. Thank you so much, Mr. Prado, for sitting with us tonight. And you guys enjoy. Till next time. We'll see you later.
All right, everybody.